That interview I did for the QA was the worst interview of my life to this day. What is up, guys? Welcome back to Tech Intern. My name is Jason Goodison. I'm a software engineer at Microsoft, and I'm here today to talk about rejection as an intern. That thing that we all absolutely hate. So I'm a 6-time intern, and I interned across 3 countries and 2 continents. A lot of people hear that and they assume that, I just waltzed in and, had pick at any tech job that I wanted, and that I'm like a fantastic genius. Listeners talk to me all the time and tell me, oh, I'm so excited that I can even talk to you, like you're an engineer at Microsoft. That's so cool. Like that's incredible. That's my goal. And when I was in my first 2 years of university, I thought the exact same way. I thought I could never be smart enough to be an engineer at Microsoft. Like that's beyond me. So today I want to talk a bit about the failure and the failure that ended up getting me into Microsoft. I want to show you guys that failure is something that we all experience in tech, especially as interns. So the first thing about failure is I feel like we shouldn't even be using that word. When we say that we get rejected from internships, we get rejected from jobs, we often use the word failure. Like, we failed to do this, we failed to do that. But the truth is, it's not a failure. Like, applying to a job and not getting the job does not mean that you failed. If anything, it's teaching you, and you're learning and you're getting better every single time. You're learning what recruiters like about your projects and about your life. And every single time you're getting a little bit more information. It's a little bit more piece to the puzzle. It's not failing until you give up. Until you say, you know what, I am not smart enough for these jobs, or I don't even want an internship. That's failure. Like, that there is locked in failure. Because the rest of it is just a story. It's a way that you're getting to where you want to be. But once you give up, that's failure. So like I said, I thought that I was not smart enough to be an engineer at Microsoft. In fact, when I was in university, I remember I applied to Microsoft and Google for the first 2 years, and then I never applied again. I actually did not apply to any of the FANG companies for the majority of my time at Waterloo. The reason for it was I just thought I was not smart enough. But I did an internship at Yahoo, and I worked with an engineer at Yahoo who was an intern with me. And then when it was time for full-time jobs, he applied to Microsoft, and he actually got the job at Microsoft. And I remember being so baffled, like, but he can do it? Like, we worked on the same team, and he's a smart guy, but he's not significantly smarter than me. Like, if he can do it, then surely I can do it. So guess what? I applied, and I got the full-time job. Like, if I had never heard that from my friend and just been okay with that failure and just gave up, I would not be where I am right now. So that's the number one thing, guys. You cannot give up. You got to treat this like those rejections. You got to treat them just like stepping stones, not like failure. Failure is giving up. Rejection is part of the process. Okay, so let's talk about my time at Waterloo when I was applying to internships. Let's say I applied to 80 internships. I applied to 80 internships for each of my 6 internships, okay? And every time I applied to an internship, I got I would get like 5 interviews every time I had to apply to internships. So I'm doing 80 applications, I'm getting 5 interviews. That's a call rate of like 6%, I think. Let me check that math. 6.25%. That's a callback rate of 6.25%. Yeah, I'm talking with people that tell me all the time that they're getting rejected from 10 jobs, and it makes them feel like they want to give up. It's part of the process. The very last point I want to leave you guys off on. First off, if you're getting any value out of this, I highly recommend liking and subscribing to the channel. It helps me out a lot. The very last point I want to talk about is this one particular job interview that had me feeling really down. This was my worst ever job interview. So I had applied to work at BlackBerry. I sent a bunch of applications in, and I got 2 interviews. One of them was for a QA position, and the other one was for just a regular dev position as a Bluetooth engineer. I went to do the very first one, which was the Bluetooth one, and they asked me a bunch of questions, like very low level questions, things I had never been asked before. especially being so early on in my university career. Here's one of the questions: how do you determine the endianness of a system? Like, you have a computer and you run this program, and it'll tell you, am I even saying that right? Endianness? Or is it endiness? Basically, like, are bits read left to right or right to left? I write a program to do that. And I had to ask them to define what endianness was. Like, was it big endian or little endian? I didn't know either of those definitions. So I came out of that interview just feeling absolutely horrible. They also asked me to find a loop in a linked list. And guess what? I didn't get that question either. So I left there feeling horrible. But it was okay, right? I had the interview the next day for the QA. So I went back for the QA the next day, and this was the worst interview I've ever done in my entire life. Essentially, I stepped in, and I was not privy to how QA engineers interviews go. I really should have researched it and studied for it, but I wasn't smart enough to do that. So essentially, they were saying, okay, what if you had a problem at work? What would you do? And I would say what I would do, like, I would try this, I would try that. And they said, what if that wouldn't work? And I would give them another solution. They'd say, what if that wouldn't work? And I would give them another solution. And they just kept drilling in. What if that didn't work? What if that didn't work? What if that didn't work? All the way until I was like, I've tried everything. Like, if I still couldn't get it, I would ask my boss. And then they said, what if your boss wasn't in today? And I felt like giving up. I felt like I just wanted to stand up and leave the room. Like, I couldn't do that anymore. Like, I felt like I was being attacked from all angles. They started telling me I was contradicting myself. I just felt horrible. Like, I actually felt so bad coming out of that interview. So fast forward about a week or two, and I get an email from the Bluetooth, the very first interview I did at BlackBerry, the one where I couldn't tell the endianness of the system. And I was given the offer. I was given the offer to the job. And I was completely blindsided by that. Like, I didn't think that they would even consider my application after that interview. And they ended up doing it. And I ended up working like fairly closely in proximity to the guy that gave me the worst interview of my life in that QA job. So the point is, just because you can't get into a company through one door doesn't mean you're not smart enough to get through the company. Like, that interview I did for the QA was the worst interview of my life to this day. Yet I got in through another door, even though that interview was also bad. If an interview is hard, it's hard for everyone, right? So it was hard for me, and I went and I thought that I must have failed. But you know what? If it's hard for me, it's hard for everyone. If it's hard for you, it's hard for other people, okay? Just because you get rejected from a company does not mean that door is closed. There's not one door into a company. There's tons of doors into a company. I really hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Tech Inturn, and check out some more of our videos. Subscribe below and hit the like button. I know everybody says smash that like button, but as just getting started, it actually helps me out quite a bit. So I would really, really appreciate that. And it'll also keep you informed on all the giveaways we're doing, giveaways for resume critiques, giveaways for paired programming to get cool features on your resume. So please subscribe to the channel below, and I will see you in the next video.